Anuj Puri joins us now, chairman with ANAROCK Property Consultants. Anuj, there are two aspects to this. One, what it means for the buyer and what it means for the developer. Now, it's a no-brainer. If you're a buyer, you would say, look, 12 instead of 12, I pay 5%. Cost of buying a new under construction building comes down significantly. But where does the developer angle fit in? What do you think should be the view for investors who currently are investing in real estate stocks?
Clearly, there were two GST rates. So one for the affordable housing, which has been brought down from 8% to 1%, and then one for the others, which has been brought down from 12% to 5%, both without input tax credit. I mean, for both the buyer and the developer, this is good news. Why do I say good news is, look at the affordable housing. I mean, it's literally 1%. When we had started the GST, it was 12%. Subsequently, it brought down to 8% and now 1%. There is no input tax credit, but I can tell you it was very difficult to calculate the input tax credit by the developers. And most of the developers were only willing to pass the input tax credit at the end of the project. So literally, the buyer had to continue to pay the GST at the rate of 12% with every installment, hoping that by the end of the project, when the developer was to square his or her accounts, there would be an input tax credit and that would be passed on to the consumer. Today, all that has gone away because the buyer will only pay 1% for affordable and 5% for the others under construction. As far as the developer is concerned, they had to maintain very complicated and elaborate accounts to be able to calculate the input tax credit. The larger developers were able to maintain it because they had the setup. The trouble was with the smaller developers, and they were struggling to be able to calculate the input tax credit. And there was anti-profiteering clause in that, and hence they had to be extremely careful to be able to calculate that. I think, given those circumstances, it is really nice now for the developer who doesn't really need to worry too much about the input tax credit because he doesn't need to pass to the buyer, and for the buyer that they are actually paying a much lower tax today. LFP in the previous case, they were getting refund, but that was only toward the end of the project and also dependent on the developer, how the developer was creating the input tax credit. All that confusion seems to have gone away with this new GST Council recommendation and approval.
Do you think, Anuj, that with the cut in rates, is this going to be enough to really prop up demand, even in terms of, from the buyer's point of view, do prices really change materially in order to really spur that demand?
So there is still a lot more that needs to be done. I think where the issue is more on interest rates and liquidity in the sector. But, this will sentimentally prop up demand. This will bring in more home buyers out. At least there will be a positive surge in the demand. I don't think that all the ills of the sector can be covered with this rate cut. There is still a lot more that needs to be done to properly revive the real estate sector.
Thank you much, Anuj, for giving us your take on what this GST cut